Like most American girls, I've been looking forward to prom my whole life. I had many dreams about who I would go with and what I would wear. Where I live, though, there aren't many options for dates, seeing as I am related to nearly half the county. So I played out situations with each of my options, in my mind. I wanted to look like a princess and get asked by a handsome prince. I started trying on prom dresses when my sister, who was 3 years older than me, went to find her dress. I went through every possible scenario in my head about how the date would go. Then, I started hearing stories about girls getting left, wardrobe malfunctions, awful DJs, and bad themes. I started to get a little anxious about the whole experience. Then, the most awful thought crept into my head. What if I don't get asked? What if I have to go with somebody that I don't want to go with? As fate would have it, junior year came around and I got asked. The problem was, I got asked by not one, not two, but 3 people. And I later found out a 4th, a senior, was planning on asking me the day after I made my final decision. How did I decide who to go with then, you ask? Well, let me tell you, it was not easy. Option number 1 had been a friend of mine since middle school. We'll call him Jack. He was never my best friend per se, but we were in the same classes and I enjoyed every conversation we had. He and I joked about our freshman year that we'd go to prom together. Then junior year came around, he brought it up again and I said, we'll see what happens. Secretly, I knew he'd try to ask me and I had this weird feeling that I shouldn't go with him. About a month before prom, he told me that Monday that he was going to ask me to prom on Wednesday with a poster. Make it an official promposal. I said, okay, we'll see what happens. But my heart told me that I should say no. Option number 2 was my best friend in the whole world. Let's say his name was Tim. I spent an entire summer hanging out with him and a couple of our friends. We did everything together and he was such a blast. Plus, our families went way back to our grandparents being friends. He had said from the time we started being friends that he wouldn't mind going to prom with me. He had his heart set on going with another girl though, and I was okay with that. When she was asked by one of our close friends, he got a little bitter. When he told me that he knew Jack had talked to me, he said that he wanted to go with me for real and that he wanted to make a poster for me. He asked me on the same Monday that Jack did, and again, I felt I should say no. So I went to theater class after lunch on Monday and was visibly torn. I sat down next to my friend and told her what had happened. Then, my theater teacher had us play this game, where you get a card and it has a number on it, from 1 to 10. You had to randomly pick a piece of paper with a scenario on it. Every scenario had 2 sides, and the teacher picked who got what. How high the number on the card was determined how much effort we would put into convincing the other person that we were right. However, you don't know what number your partner has. When it came to my friend and I's turn, we picked our cards, and then she assigned my friend and I to our sides and told us that what the scenario was. I had just gotten asked to prom by 2 different people, and I wanted to go with one person, but my friend wanted me to go with another. We looked at each other and were astonished by that fact that we had picked this piece of paper from 20 others. Because we had to participate, we got up on the stage in front of the whole class to act out our scenario. So we just discussed the exact pros and cons of my situation. We used fake names because Tim was in the class. I knew that if I said no to these boys, everyone in the community would find out, and then no one would ask me. I had also been told my whole life that if a guy works up the courage to ask me on a date, then I had to say yes, unless he was a criminal. Besides, how could I tell them no when they were both such good friends of mine? I still had the feeling I needed to say no to both, but I was trying to ignore it. Because I had a 6, I tried to state every feeling I had, and even though I didn't know it, she had a 7, and she kept going too. We stated the pros and cons of each person, and finally, I let her win because I thought her number must be way higher than mine due to her great points. After that class, though, what I was really wishing for was a solid 3rd option. That way, if I said no to both, I would have a reason to say yes, because besides just a weird feeling that I should say no. Besides, both boys had nothing wrong with them. Option number 3 was Mason. I had only been talking to him for 3 weeks. We had many mutual friends, and I learned very quickly that he was an amazing person. We had been texting each other quite a bit and had hung out in the same group a couple of times. I was developing a crush on him and was fairly sure that he felt the same way, though we had never discussed it. The only problem was that he was a sophomore. He'd still be allowed to go, but I didn't know if he would even be interested, and I'd always expected that I'd go with another junior. After watching my scenario, his best friend came to talk to me, and she agreed that I needed a 3rd option. So she suggested that she could talk to Mason about what was happening before Wednesday, because she knew that was when Jack would officially ask me. I told her that I would greatly appreciate if she would. I felt oddly hopeful about this one. When I got home, I told my mom about my day. She asked me why I didn't just say no when I felt like I needed to, and I told her why I felt like I couldn't. She told me that I also just needed to make a decision, and that if I broke somebody's heart, it would be okay. Mason told me on Tuesday morning that he was planning to ask me. I took this as the answer I needed. I told Tim first, and I thought things would be okay. We'd stay best friends just like usual. I then told Jack, and I knew that he was bummed, but I figured we'd be alright. Both Tim and Jack ended up asking other girls and had fun times at prom, but nowhere near the amazing experience I had. It was pretty much a dream. I now know why I felt that I should say no. But because I cannot escape fate, life happened. Sadly, they rarely speak to me now. A lot of my friends were mad about the situation, and they don't talk to me as much either. I think nothing less of them, and they are still awesome people. Even though I was the only junior in my prom group, I found a dress that I never imagined myself wearing, and I was with someone I had only known for 3 weeks. I felt like a princess on prom night, and Mason treated me like one. It was better than I had ever imagined. After years of dreaming and trying to figure out who I would go with, it ended up in a completely different way. Mason and I are still friends, and have gone on many dates since then. I even joined his friend group. I enjoy hanging out with them so much, and I feel like I'm more myself around them. My eyes were open to the fact that saying no is okay, and that I need to do it before drama is created. But I admit, sometimes I do miss Jack and Tim.